I think the true innovation that is happening in the industry for games right now is actually happening in the independent space.
Indies can try new things. They can try bizarre things. They can afford to fail.
They're not afraid to go outside of the comfort zone of what is currently popular, what will make the most money.
It's often generated by an idea that's grown from a personal experience or personal desire to play a specific type of game.
Big studios may be risk averse when it comes to trying out new things, new ideas, new features. Our independent developers are the ones who are really tip of the spear for a lot of that. They're taking risks, they're bold. They're the ones that are really doing the things that are innovating and helping to attract and welcome more people to the space.
I've been making games since 1985, before there really was a game industry. Back in the day, the indie scene was shareware. You know, you put shareware on a floppy disk and you get it out there to as many people as possible. You could always make games, but getting them in front of people was always a problem. There's a lot to do because true indie developers are responsible for the game, obviously, and then also marketing and PR and distribution.
We all came with this kind of old school mentality that you needed a big publisher, you can't build your own team, and all of this mindset that kept our thinking a little bit too small.
And I think a lot of that changed in the early 2000s with the rise of things like the Xbox program and Steam and all this stuff.
It was really a different time. We were just at the dawn of digital downloads. And today, it just seems like hard to even imagine that there wasn't a world where everything was digitally downloaded. But Xbox Live Arcade clearly showed that like digitally downloading games was like an amazing way forward. The first games I worked on for XBLA were Joust, Robotron, and Defender. But quickly, developers saw this amazing opportunity. Like, wait a minute, I can make a game for a couple dozen megabytes and sell it directly to consumers for $5 or $10 or $15. The popularity vastly outstripped anything that Microsoft ever expected when it started the program. They thought it was going to be kind of cool to have some neat downloadable arcade games or puzzle games, and what they got was some of the most like innovative and progressive independent games that have ever been created. And you saw games like Castle Crashers and Braid and everything else just explode. Was actually happening faster than Microsoft could really respond to it on 360. And as we got into the Xbox One era, we realized, we needed to take the next step for independent developers. So I was one of the people who helped co-found the ID program way back in the day, 10 years ago now.
We were seeing an opportunity where more independent developers could actually bring their games without having a publisher.
Back in the day, it was really hard to get dev kits. To get games on Xbox, developers needed kits. And so we made a commitment early on that every developer is going to get access to 2 dev kits at no charge. We knew if we could do those things, make it easy to ship, enable developers to do what they want, to be their own publishers, we knew that we would be giving Xbox players access to this amazing variety of content, and we knew that Xbox players would respond. The next thing was to go to Cologne and announce it.
Here we are, it's that time of the year again. Cologne, Germany for Gamescom.
My favorite time of the year.
We had like more than 1,000 people apply in the first hour after we announced it until the website crashed. I think the big thing that we understood by the end of the show was like, oh my gosh, we have so much work to do.
Boom! That'll slow them down.
We wanted a program that made sure that people who we had never heard of would be able to come to Xbox and have fantastic success. And so whether you were a long-standing developer or whether you were like, 2 brothers in Canada who had like a bonkers idea to hand draw every frame of a video game, we wanted to make sure Xbox was there for you.
Our original team started off with my brother Jared Moldenhauer and I always wanting to make a video game. And as we got through some initial ideas and some initial concepts and how the game was going to go, we pulled in my wife, Maya Moldenhauer, and we started as this small, tight-knit team and expanded from there.
Studio MDHR at the time, was a wonderful small family based in Canada who had this amazing game.
They had a vision for a game that's unlike any game anybody's ever made before. You can say, oh, there's been run and gun games before. There've been hand-drawn games before. Nobody ever thought to put them together the way they did.
The art style of Cuphead was influenced heavily by the 1930s rubber hose cartoons. So we took that art style and married it with the retro games from the 1980s era that we grew up and loved. Marrying those two together, Cuphead was the byproduct.
The game is so cute, it's beautiful, it's also very challenging.
It was less a choice of us wanting to make the game hard just to make it hard, and more of the fact that Cuphead had to be hard to be a fun game. We had to love every aspect of what we were doing, and that means every creative decision had to be something we truly love.
The thing that stands out in my mind was we were down in LA at E3 and we were announcing Cuphead. They announced the date and everybody goes crazy. It was just such an amazing moment.
That feeling is still very raw. I almost get choked up sometimes when we talk about it because, you know, we talk about how we had put so much on the line. To step foot on that stage and not know whether or not we would ever even make our money back, whether or not we would ever be able to make another game, to see the fans' response to that announcement change the course of our lives.
They've had so much success now. You can get a marionette, you can watch a Netflix show, you can get like a pencil case. It's so cool to see Cuphead everywhere. But in a lot of ways, it was kind of like the prototypical, what we were hoping was going to happen when ID at Xbox started.
Hello all, thank you for coming to this very important informational meeting.
The first time I heard about ID at Xbox, I was doing Thimbleweed Park. Prior to then, it was really kind of just me. Things like Steam are a black box. You fill out some forms, you put a game up there. We didn't have a ton of money for things like marketing PR, but we were invited to a whole lot of events that ID and Xbox was putting on, ability to show our game. They gave us, nice placement on the dashboard and things like that. So it was really good.
One of the key things of ID at Xbox is listen to the developers. When we want to get great games to players, the way you do that is by listening to developers and making sure you're making a program that works for them.
Astroneer is an independent title. The 4 founders really wanted to venture out on their own, start their own project, take ownership over every part of development. When the original team was building out the game, they were really looking for a creative partner to work with to execute on that vision and also give them a little room. And ID at Xbox stepped in and said, hey, we want you to make whatever you want to make, and we're going to give you the resources that you might not even know that you need in order to do that. We launched into game preview and into early access, and it saw amazing success right off the bat. And so I think once we realized that people were coming along on that ride with us, we just saw that as a way to just keep building it out. I mean, at this point now, I think we've updated like 40 times.
Over the 10 years of ID at Xbox, we've been reaching developers, having a lot of cool developers bring their games to the platform. But we also recognize that there's more that we can do to reach our underrepresented developers. The mission of the Developer Acceleration Program is to empower underrepresented developers with the information and resources needed to bring their creativity, innovation, and originality to Xbox. We're talking about teams, including but not limited to studios led by women, studios led by people of color, studios led by members of the LGBTQI+ community or indigenous people. There's a studio that's focusing on accessibility.
Hello, little fella.
Another group of developers that we support through the DAP program are developers in parts of the world that are underrepresented from a game development standpoint. I recently had the chance to attend the big festival in Brazil. There's a studio called Real. They're making a game called One Beat Men. This is a game about Afro-Brazilians and beatboxing.
Raji is a game by Nodding Head Games from India. They made this beautiful game. It's an action-adventure game revolved around this young female protagonist. There's a lot of adaptation from the mythology from India. It's just very authentically Indian.
A Space for the Unbound, which is a game from Indonesia, is a really, really beautifully crafted game. It's just a really nice gameplay experience where you get to learn about a different culture.
As we start to empower more of these studios to tell more of their stories, I think we're going to see more diversity in the games that are coming to the platform, more diversity in the gamers that are playing these games.
We made this little program to try and enable developers, and it's awesome, but developers are the people should be thinking about.
The types of games that we see in genre, in style, in art, in region, in the size of the developers, the story they're trying to tell, it has increased in the last 10 years, and I see that continuing to rise.
Whenever you're building art, it's like it's a part of your soul, right? You're putting yourself out there when you have your art, whether it's a painting or music or a game.
I think it's very important for companies like Microsoft to pay attention and help the independent community. It changes that old way of thinking that you can't break into the industry, and now it actually lets the next generation of people truly dig in. We're going to see so many more new and creative ideas that's going to push and drive innovation moving forward into the future.